And I think about the time, several hundred years, and the only converts he had were his wife, his 3 sons, and their wives, and that was it. That had to be pretty disappointing. And then I think about Moses. Oh, what a humble man he was. Led probably 1.5 million people for 40 years through the desert. And you would think they'd be grateful to this great man of God who led them out of slavery. But what they do, every time he turned around, they were finding fault with everything he did. And they blamed him. They really wouldn't say, well, God's at fault. But they said, why did you lead us out of a land of plenty where we have no water, no food, and we have this nasty stuff called manna? We hate this stuff. Can you imagine being Moses? I'm afraid that I would have resigned. I'd say, I quit. I don't need this. But he didn't. He stayed in there. I think about Elijah. Elijah was another man of God that did so much for the Lord. Took on some kings, took on some false prophets. And he thought he was all alone. Basically, he had a nervous breakdown. He was hiding in a cave after he ran several days. And the Lord said, why are you hiding in this cave? And can you get the picture of Elijah? You ever had somebody ask you something, a question that was so obvious that why did you even ask me? I'm seeing him maybe looking up out of the sky where God's voice was coming and going, are you kidding me? You know what I've done, and I'm the only one here who worships God. I'm all by myself, and where have you been at? And the Lord said, I've got 7,000 that haven't built the need to build. You're not by yourself. But it had to be a pretty disappointing time for him, didn't it? And then I think of the original Spelzenbach. Several years he was in Africa with not a single convert. Wouldn't that be tough? I think we preachers could have some interesting talks, don't you? And then there was David. A lot of the other Old Testament prophets. And of course, the New Testament, there were so many good ones, but I think the one I'd like to sit down and talk to is Paul. Paul, probably the greatest theologian that ever walked on the earth, next to Jesus. It'd be kind of interesting to be able to just pull things out of him. Sometimes I'd like to make him feel like a sponge because I'd squeeze him so much trying to find out things. The book of Romans, he wrote probably the greatest book on theology in the Bible. There's a lot of things in Romans I'm like, well, what did you mean by this? And why did you even put it in there? It doesn't make sense to me. I wonder what Paul would say about the problem that the earth is having right now, the planet's having with homosexuality. You know, he talked a good bit about that. It's not something that just developed in our generation. It's been around for a long time. But we're coming to a day to where it's not going to be too much longer that we're going to be able to spend eternity with these giants of the Bible. Rub shoulders with them. And other dads and moms and grandmas and grandpas that love the Lord and are in heaven right now. We'll be with them forever. And we'll never tire of rejoicing of our eternal companions. And our song will be, Worthy is the Lamb. That'll be our hymn, H-Y-M, and to him, H-I-M. In 1991, there was a Gallup poll that showed that 78% of Americans believed with all their heart they were going to go to heaven. Yet they also said that they seldom prayed, read the Bible, and hardly ever went to church. And they also admitted that they lived to please themselves rather than God. And Mr. Gallup said he kind of wondered, why would they want to go to heaven then? And then there was an article titled, Are We Ready for Heaven? By Maurice R. Irwin, who said this, only 34% of the American people who call themselves Christians attend church at least once a week. He says, we sing the song, when all my labors and trials are o'er, and I'm safe on that beautiful shore, just to be near the dear Lord I adore, will all through the ages be glory for me. He said, however, unless our attitudes don't change toward the Lord and our appreciation for what He's done for us, heaven may be more of a shock than glory. You say, well, what's all this got to do with today, 2011? Every dark day should be brightened by the prospect of heaven. You know, folks, as a Christian, this is not your home. You're just going through. Heaven is just around the corner. One of the things that I tell Faith, and I probably have told you, whenever we get ready to go on vacation, we'll set the date. My wife sets all the dates for vacation. I just tell her, put it in my appointment book so I know when I'm supposed to leave. And she'll tell me these dates, and I say, okay, that's great. And I'll put that date there, and it seems like time just stops. Have you ever noticed that? It just stops. But the next thing I know, the vacation's over, and we're on the road coming back home. Do you know that's what it's going to be towards heaven? We keep thinking, well, heaven is going to take forever and ever and ever, but before you know it, the trump shall sound, the dead in Christ will rise first, and we which are alive will meet him in the air. Won't that be a wonderful, exciting day when we'll be with the Lord? We call that the rapture of the church of Jesus Christ. And so whenever you're having all these dark days and you're having all these problems, folks, you're just passing through. Don't let it get you down. Think about the rapture. And think that it's close. And you're going to get through it. He's promised he'll never lay anything on you that you can't handle. And he'll provide a means to escape so that you can bear it. He's got all these promises. And we need to take these promises like the Psalms, hide them in our hearts. Hide them in our hearts so that we won't forget them. And then, folks, every burden should be lightened in the promise of what's ahead. Can you begin to see how great it's going to be? We really can't. But sometimes I think we forget about it. Sometimes we get caught up in the mundane things of life on planet Earth. We've got to realize we're just passing through here. We're just passing through. Won't that be neat? One day we're going to say, wow, remember when we were thinking how it was never going to come? It's going to be here. Let me close with a story. I want to read this thing to you so I don't miss what he had to say. Don't have his name. He's an unknown author. And here's what he had to say. He said, as a boy, I thought of heaven as a city with domes, spires, and beautiful streets of gold inhabited by angels. By and by, my little brother died. Then another died. And then some of my acquaintances. So that in time, I began to think of heaven as containing several people that I knew. But it wasn't until one of my own little children died that I began to think that I had a treasure in heaven myself. Afterward, another went, and yet another. And by that time, I had so many acquaintances and children in heaven that I no more thought of it as a city merely with streets of gold, but as a place that was full of inhabitants that I know. And now, there are so many loved ones there that I sometimes think I know more people in heaven than I do here on the earth. That's the truth, isn't it? Are you sure of heaven? What a day that will be when we cross the shore. The old saints used to have all these old songs, but you know, someday it's going to be here and we're going to say, wow, it's worth more than I ever dreamed. Would you stand with me? Father in heaven, what a joy it is when we pause to think about heaven. You said in my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, I would have told you. And we know, Lord, that you'd go in there and prepare a place for us. And Lord, my prayer today is for that one that's been going through a rough time. Things just don't make a whole lot of sense. We know the devil knows that his time is near. And he's got his big guns out and he's fighting. And we just pray today that you would just pour out your Spirit upon each one of us, especially that one that's had a really rough time. Remind us and help us to understand that this is just a temporary time that we're going through. We're on our way to heaven. And I pray, Lord, that you would just guide our hearts and our lives so when these tough times come, when it's so hard for us to pray, help us to pray the hardest. Give us a sense of your love, your goodness, and your concern and care about everything that's going on in our life. And Lord, help us to realize, for God so loved the world that he gave. And we know that that verse could have ended right there, but it didn't. It goes on and said, you gave your only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. I'm thankful, Lord, that you love us. Don't really know why you do, but you do. And we just pray today that your presence, your Spirit, and your love would settle in upon each one of us. And as we pause, Lord, there may be somebody that would like to pray. Heads are bowed and eyes are closed, and the altar is open if you'd like to talk to Jesus about anything. Sometimes we think, well, the only thing altars are for sinners. No, they're for Christians too. If you've got a special need or a burden you'd like to bring to the Lord, He's here. Jesus said, all ye that are weary and heavy laden, come unto me, and I will give you rest. Anybody at all like to come? And then we know that you can pray right in your seat. God is omnipresent. He's with us wherever we are. He's with everyone. Father, we thank you for your words that we've looked at about heaven. And Lord, it's my hope, my desire, that everyone in here is ready. And then when that day comes, that each of us will meet you in the air. Bless our hearts and lives. And Lord, we pray for those who didn't come today for whatever the reason. We know some are sick, some are traveling. We know some just chose not to come. These are the ones that we especially lift up to you. Pray that you just undertake. Be close to them. And again, we want to lift our friend Ron up to you that's got this terrible pain from the kidney stone. Pray that you just touch him, be close to him. Bless each one of us now. Give us a great day and a great week. We ask these things in Jesus' name. And all God's kids said. Amen. Amen.